Fourth down, Herbert hit to end it. The guts, he's got the talent. Things just continue not to break his way.
He is not beating the allegations.
I mean, he was just getting buried every play.
You can see with some of these plays, he's got no chance.
He had a 27-0 lead against Jacksonville. They lost.
Unbelievable. That is unbelievable.
Last year, he threw 4 interceptions against the Texans. They lost.
Herbert, deep shot, picked off. 4th of the day for Houston.
Tonight, he scored 3 points. Y'all better get some protection for this young man.
This man called him the most coddled player in the NFL that never gets criticized for being the worst quarterback in January. Do you guys think that this loss tonight throws him in the overrated category?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it's an issue.
What is your confidence in yourself that you will be able to get over this hump eventually, get a playoff win, make a playoff run?
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't figured it out yet.
And I think the hate has gone a little too far.
I think he's the greatest, most talented quarterback that hasn't won anything, hasn't won a playoff game.
When they get Joe Alt back, when they get Rashawn Slater back, they are going to look like a different team.
Herbert to the air. Pipkins the block at the right tackle. Got away from Allen. Herbert alive and the throw. Caught! Touchdown! Touchdown! Allen! What a play!
Sure, he's not the problem, but he hasn't been enough of the solution.
Brady never had a bad line. Ever. Brooks had a couple of
Justin Herbert defense.
Yeah. So Justin Herbert. So Justin Herbert's no quarterbacks ever won a playoff game with an offensive line. Yeah.
They scored more than 3 points. It's never his fault. We're 6 years in, Colin. He has the 2nd lowest passer rating in the history of the NFL in the playoffs. The offensive line stunk all year. Yet for the 2nd straight year, he had far and away his worst game of the season in the playoffs.
Well, if it ain't Justin Herbert. One of the most polarizing quarterbacks in today's game. Someone I was low on coming out of the 2020 NFL draft and proven so wrong on. Or was I? An NFL quarterback is not only one of the most discussed positions in sports, but the dream life of every NFL fan. And in many ways, Justin Herbert is living just that life. I mean, look at these memes. Ooh, look at me. I'm Justin Herbert. I'm 6'6" with a rocket arm. I'm Justin Herbert. I get paid $250 million to play quarterback in the NFL. I'm Justin Herbert. I'm dating Madison Beer and she just made a song about me. But somehow, with all that going on, there are those who argue things haven't quite gone his way over the years. Since his rookie season, the narrative has shifted from one of the NFL's most exciting and talented young quarterbacks destined for greatness into one of the NFL's most overrated quarterbacks and a playoff choke artist. While Justin Herbert still has his truthers who defend him to this day after a 3rd embarrassing playoff loss, even the most objective football fans have grown exhausted of defending him. Are external factors to blame, or is he really one of the biggest choke artists in the NFL? After 6 seasons, I believe there's enough for us to understand what the Chargers have been for him, what he's gone up against, and how he's performed. He's a 28-year-old vet at this point, so let's figure it out. Why is he so controversial? How should he be ranked? And what's stopping Justin Herbert? If you like the video so far, you can do me a huge favor by dropping a like on it and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. Before we get into his career, I'd just like to recap Herbert's journey to the dream life of being an NFL quarterback and establish a background of who he is. And that means we gotta go back to 1998. Justin Herbert was born in Eugene, Oregon on March 10th, 1998 to his parents Holly and Mark, and he was born into a family of athletes. His father played football and ran track at Montana. His mother played basketball at Oregon. His grandfather played receiver at Oregon, and his other grandfather was a biology teacher at Herbert's high school, playing a key role in his favorite subject. His older brother Mitchell was a wide receiver at Montana State University, and Herbert's younger brother Patrick plays tight end for the Jaguars, and wow, the resemblance is clear. Herbert was a Chargers fan growing up and dreamed of playing for them since the age of 9. He attended Sheldon High School, where he played football, basketball, and baseball, and as a senior, Herbert passed for 3,130 yards, 37 touchdowns, and rushed for 543 yards and 10 touchdowns. He was named first-team All-State and Southwest Conference Offensive Player of the Year. A 3-star recruit by the end of his high school days, he received a few offers, but the choice was clear. He would accept the offer from Oregon and follow in the footsteps of his family. Justin Herbert's 4-year career at Oregon was defined by steady growth in his abilities and the hype surrounding him. As a true freshman, in 2016, Herbert unexpectedly took over as the starting quarterback and immediately flashed his talent, throwing for 1,936 yards and 19 touchdowns in just 8 starts, while setting Oregon's single-game records, with 489 passing yards, 6 touchdown passes, and 512 total yards against Washington. In 2017, he led Oregon to a 4-1 start before suffering a broken collarbone, and the Ducks' offense collapsed without him along with their season. Herbert returned in 2018 under his third head coach in 3 seasons and emerged as a Heisman contender. He threw for over 3,100 yards and 29 touchdowns and led Oregon to a Redbox Bowl victory. While many expected the 6'6" quarterback with a cannon to declare for the 2019 NFL Draft, Herbert made the surprising decision to return for his senior season, and the gamble paid off, as he led the Ducks to a 12-2 record, a Pac-12 championship, and a Rose Bowl victory, earning offensive MVP honors after rushing for 3 touchdowns in the game. He also earned college football's academic Heisman in the form of the William V. Campbell Trophy, graduating with a degree in general science. By the end of his career, Herbert had thrown for 10,541 yards and 95 touchdowns, finishing second in Oregon history in career passing yards, touchdown passes, and completions, cementing himself as one of the greatest quarterbacks the program has ever produced. Heading into a loaded quarterback class for the 2020 NFL Draft, with Joe Burrow winning the Heisman and Natty with arguably the best year of all time, it was a battle to be the second quarterback taken between Justin Herbert and Tua Tagovailoa. With the Bengals locked in with Burrow at first overall, the Dolphins and Chargers at 5 and 6 were expected to pick between the two. Herbert's talent and measurables were clearly superior to Tua's, a few even arguing he should be drafted first overall based on upside, but he wasn't as polished as either of the other two and posed the greater risk as a prospect. Conversation swirled, but come draft night, it seemed Herbert was number 2 on the board and the Dolphins would take him at 5, leaving the Chargers with Tua. But the Dolphins would select Tua with the 5th pick, much to the excitement of Chargers fans. The Chargers would select Herbert without a second thought, welcoming the childhood fan as the future of the franchise. So he did it. He makes it to the NFL. Let's recap his career so far. In 2020, Justin Herbert's rookie year was one of the greatest debuts by a quarterback in NFL history. Originally expected to sit behind Tyrod Taylor, but after Tyrod's lung was suspiciously punctured by one of the medical assistants, Herbert was unexpectedly thrust into action in week 2 and immediately impressed, throwing for 311 yards against the defending champion Kansas City Chiefs. As the season progressed, he broke rookie records, becoming the first rookie quarterback to throw for 4 touchdown passes on Monday Night Football and setting a new NFL rookie record with 31 passing touchdowns. Herbert finished the year with 4,336 passing yards, 31 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions, also adding 5 rushing scores. Despite the Chargers finishing just 7-9, Herbert's remarkable arm talent and record-breaking production earned him NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year and established him as the franchise quarterback of the future. The Chargers would fire head coach Anthony Lynn and hope for brighter days with new head coach Brandon Staley. After a record-breaking rookie campaign, Justin Herbert took another massive step forward in 2021 and cemented himself as one of the NFL's elite young quarterbacks. In his first season under head coach Brandon Staley, Herbert became the first quarterback in Chargers history to throw for over 5,000 yards, finishing with 5,014 passing yards and 38 touchdowns. He produced numerous signature performances, including a 4-touchdown game against the Browns and 5 fourth-quarter comebacks. Despite the Chargers narrowly missing the playoffs at 9-8 after a dramatic Week 18 loss to the Raiders, Herbert earned his first Pro Bowl selection and had Chargers fans excited for the future. Justin Herbert entered 2022 with MVP expectations, but the season quickly became a test of toughness. After suffering fractured rib cartilage early in the year, Herbert battled through injuries while several key offensive weapons also missed time. Even with those setbacks, he started all 17 games and threw for over 4,739 yards and 25 touchdowns while leading the Chargers to a 10-7 record and his first playoff berth. Herbert became the first quarterback in NFL history to throw for at least 4,000 yards in each of his first 3 seasons and set the record for most total touchdowns through a player's first 3 years. However, after 3 years of hype surrounding Herbert's legacy, the season ended in horror when the Chargers blew a 27-0 lead to Jacksonville in the wild card round. Following the egregious playoff choke job, the 2023 season was one of the most frustrating of Justin Herbert's career. Despite playing behind an inconsistent offensive line and dealing with injuries around him, Herbert continued to put up strong numbers, throwing for 3,134 yards and 20 touchdowns in just 13 games. The Chargers struggled to find consistency and fell out of playoff contention as close losses piled up throughout the year, eventually firing head coach Brandon Staley in Week 15, which was long overdue. Herbert's season was ultimately cut short when he suffered a fractured finger on his throwing hand in December, ending his streak of durability and forcing him to miss the final 4 games. The Chargers finished 5-12, leading to significant organizational changes and questions about the franchise direction moving forward. In 2024, with Jim Harbaugh taking over as head coach, it seemed like exactly what the Chargers needed, and Justin Herbert entered a new era with the Chargers. The offense became more balanced and efficient, asking Herbert to do less volume passing but still rely on his arm talent under Greg Roman's new offense. He responded with one of the most efficient seasons of his career, throwing for 3,870 yards, 23 touchdowns, and only 3 interceptions, while posting a passer rating of over 100. Herbert helped guide the Chargers to an 11-6 record and a return to the playoffs, proving he could thrive in a system focused on winning football games rather than padding stats. By season's end, he had broken the NFL record for most passing yards through a quarterback's first 5 seasons. However, the season again ended in disaster as they crumbled in the playoffs versus the Texans. Herbert would end the season throwing 4 interceptions versus D'Amico's Demons, and the playoff choke artist label had officially been attached to him. Coming off another rough playoff loss in the first year of Jim Harbaugh's regime, Justin Herbert entered year 2 of the regime with expectations as high as ever in 2025. Even though the Chargers had a stacked roster in July, everything fell apart around Herbert by week 4 of the season. Herbert opened the year on a tear, helping Los Angeles to a 3-0 start and briefly entering the MVP conversation. But injuries and protection issues eventually slowed the offense. Despite battling one of the NFL's most pressured offensive lines, absorbing constant hits throughout the year, Herbert carried the Chargers offense to another playoff berth. He finished the season with 3,727 passing yards, 26 touchdowns, and 13 interceptions, while leading the Chargers to an 11-6 record. While the Chargers remained a contender throughout the season, Herbert's playoff woes continued as the Chargers were eliminated in anticlimactic fashion to the breakout New England Patriots. His ability to keep the Chargers in the AFC playoff conversation despite difficult circumstances further reinforced his reputation as one of the league's most talented quarterbacks. However, the question surrounding his intangibles puzzles many to this day and has them asking the question, how could such a talented and productive quarterback look so awful in the playoffs? Is he actually just a choke artist? What's stopping him? Before we take a deep dive into each of his playoff disasters, let's take a moment to understand what Herbert has accomplished in his 6-year career and what his strengths and weaknesses are. So let's start with the positive takeaways this time. Herbert has had a career 52-46 record. In the previous 6 years, the Chargers had 3 seasons with 5 wins or less, and only 1 season with more than 9 wins. Not a great team to inherit. As I said, Herbert's only played 6 seasons, so not enough to make any all-time lists, but let's check his rates to see how he projects. He has a career 66.5 completion percentage, and that's tied for 8th all-time. He's totaled 24,820 passing yards. That's 261.3 passing yards per game, and that lands him 10th all-time. He has 163 passing touchdowns, 1.72 passing touchdowns per game. That lands him 16th all-time, and 58 career interceptions. That's a 1.7 interception percentage, and that is 3rd best all-time, only behind Aaron Rodgers and, funny enough, Jacoby Brissett, who is tied with Aaron Rodgers. And his 96.3 career passer rating is 18th best all-time. He holds one of the 15 5,000-yard passing seasons in NFL history. Only 9 quarterbacks have ever achieved that. Assuming he remains as durable as he is, he should find himself in the top 10 all-time for the categories of passing yards and completion percentage, and top 20 all-time for passing touchdowns and passer rating. Herbert has also improved as a scrambler over the years with a respectable 1,715 yards, 4.6 yards per carry, and 15 touchdowns on the ground. Of the quarterbacks playing 7 or more games in 2025, Herbert faced the highest pressure rate at about 30%. He had 42 scrambles and an average of 9 yards on those scrambles, leading the NFL in that sample. He totaled nearly 500 yards and 6 yards per carry in 2025. The Chargers' offensive line has had its ups and downs over the years, and in 2025, he faced the highest pressure rate since his rookie season. But it's safe to say he's gotten a lot of practice scrambling over the years and is making better use of that 4.68 speed. He's not a phenomenal rusher or even the most instinctive play extender, even if he's gotten better at it over the years. But with his elite passing ability, his mobility provides just enough to compare him to the most talented quarterbacks in the NFL, and it's great to see him improving in that facet. And with play extension comes clutch moments and fourth quarter comebacks, so how does he fare there? Herbert has 15 fourth quarter comebacks and 19 game-winning drives in his career. This is nowhere near the top all time, but the rate is solid. If he plays just another 9 full seasons at that rate, he'd have 39, which would tie him for 4th all time with Matthew Stafford, who is still playing. Of course, Herbert is 28. He could also play closer to 18 seasons if he retires at 40, so that's a great pace. But how impressive are those comebacks? I would say most impressive is 2021 versus the Chiefs, 30-24 victory. He had 281 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. In 2025 versus the first-seeded Broncos early in the year when the Chargers were healthy, he won 23-20, 300 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. And then in 2021 versus the Browns, a 47-42 victory, nearly 400 yards, 4 touchdowns and no interceptions, and a game-winning touchdown run to cap it off. That was a fun game. Against worse teams, he's proven if his team's in a hole or if he's had a bad half, he can will them back to victory. So now let's shift over to the negative takeaways on his career. And before I state the obvious, I want to dig a little deeper first. As great of a passer as Herbert is, his ability to operate within protection is elite. It's when he's under pressure that has always been the question surrounding him. He's certainly gotten better at decision making under pressure over the years, but since he's entered the league, it's been his main issue. Same goes for every quarterback. Nobody plays better under pressure, but it's about how much worse you get when it is there. Whether it's sitting like a duck or when pressure's closing in, choosing to run when he could extend the play and making use of his arm, or trying to force a pass that ends up intercepted, it's certainly one of his main issues. It's difficult to quantify, but you'll see as we enter the playoff discussion more of what I'm talking about. Next, Herbert is in one-score games. It's not dreadful, but when we put that in the context of top 10 quarterbacks, it's not that good. The only notable guy he's better than in this discussion is Joe Burrow. While Herbert's defense has let him down before, it's not to the degree that Joe Burrow's defense has let him down. It's in those one-score games when you're able to have a perfect drive, make the right decisions under pressure on third down, play after play, that you earn those comeback wins and that clutch label. And last but not least, 0-3 in the playoffs, and not just 0-3, but horrific losses. A 27-0 choke job versus the Jaguars, then being outscored by a combined 48-15 in the past 2 playoff games versus the Texans and Patriots. It's hard to imagine a worse playoff resume than that. He's got a 54.7 completion percentage in the playoffs, 2 passing touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. Yikes. So, this segues us into the big question. If Herbert is such a talented and productive passer and is clearly somewhat capable of performing in the clutch during the regular season, why is he so dreadful in the playoffs? Is the moment too big for him? Has he simply played softer schedules in the regular season, or is he really a choke artist? Let's find out what's stopping him. January 14th, 2023, the Jaguars game. Pretty amazing looking back how the Chargers lost this game. The Jags did outgain the Chargers by 70 yards. The Chargers had 4 more penalties, which hurts, and the Jags were 2 for 3 on 4th down, where the Chargers never went for it. But the Chargers won the turnover battle 5-0 and lost. That's the only instance in NFL playoff history. Other teams that had a 5+ turnover margin were 16-0 in the playoffs prior to this game. The Chargers were 8 for 17 on 3rd down versus the Jags 2 of 10. and the Chargers won time of possession, holding the ball for an extra 5 minutes and 18 seconds. How on earth did they lose this game? Let's take a look. The first half is one of the worst halves of football ever played in a playoff game for the Jags. In Jacksonville, Trevor Lawrence threw 4 interceptions, and down 24-0, the Jaguars technically muffed a punt as it bounced off a Jaguars jammer's foot and was recovered by the Chargers, who would kick a field goal and go up 27-0 with 4:25 left in the second quarter. Then the teams would proceed to trade 3 and outs, and throughout this stretch, the Chargers understandably dominated time of possession. 18 minutes and 17 seconds to 9 minutes and 55 seconds, nearly doubling the Jaguars' time of possession, even with the short fields they had. The Jags were 0 for 6 on third down and failed their fourth down attempt, and the Jags had only 61 yards, 2 first downs, and they punted 3 times. Compare that to the Chargers' 166 yards, 5 for 6 rate on third down, and 7 first downs altogether with 3 punts. Something must have clicked on offense and defense after this moment. The Jags marched down the field with less than 2 minutes remaining, convert a 4th and 1 to extend the drive, and Lawrence throws a 9-yard touchdown to Evan Ingram to cut the lead to 27-7 before half. Didn't seem like a big deal at first, but that touchdown would be monumental. As for Herbert and the Chargers to close out the first half, they did have 3 punts and 3 3-and-outs and 2 field goals among 7 possessions. On third down on those drives, a batted pass, good coverage by the Jags defense, and a fumbled jet sweep where it looked like the wide receiver Bandy didn't know he was getting the ball ended those drives. Runs for no gain and batted passes were also keeping them behind the sticks. The Jaguars defense was really in good position all game. Jags defensive coordinator Mike Caldwell definitely outcoached Joe Lombardi for sure. To start the second half, the Chargers punt after 3 straight incompletions on a drive that started with a negative 4-yard run by Eckler. The Chargers O-line was really struggling to block the Jags front at this point. Across the second half, Eckler went from 5 carries, 27 yards, and 2 touchdowns to 7 carries for 1 yard in the second half, 0.14 yards per carry. The Jags opened up, getting first downs every other play until they finally reached 3rd and 7 at the Chargers 20, but that is cut to 3rd and 2 after Joey Bosa had an offsides call, which is really BS because Jawan Taylor false started many times in this game, and we are all well aware of this problem that tackles have, and Taylor in particular. Lawrence throws a 6-yard touchdown pass to Marvin Jones, and now the lead is cut to 27-14. The Chargers respond by marching to the Jaguars 31 on Herbert's shoulders, but another Eckler negative 1-yard rush and 2 incompletions later, and it's 4th and 11 and they settle for 3. The Jaguars pass rush and coverage staying true on both plays. But that 30-14 lead is short-lived as the Jags again convert first downs every other play to the Chargers 39, and Lawrence hits Zay Jones for a wide-open 39-yard touchdown. The Jags go for 2 and fail, but it's still now only 30-20. At this point, it's apparent where Doug Peterson and Trevor Lawrence had Brandon Staley's defense figured out as they were just carving them up underneath. But Herbert again gets the Chargers down the field to the Jaguars 22, and Cameron Dicker with 8:51 on the clock misses the field goal with a chance to go up 33-20. The Jags again march down the field, first down after first down, 9-play, 70-yard drive, capped off by a 6-yard touchdown pass to Christian Kirk, and this is the play where Joey Bosa crashes out, and again, I understand why. Taylor false starts and holds him on this play. The Jags get the 2-point conversion, and now it's 28-30. The Chargers still lead with 5:25 to go. Herbert has a chance to end it, but on the first play, he's immediately pressured and sacked for a 7-yard loss. Yikes. They run a screen to Eckler that only goes for 4, and the Jags hold them on third down, and now it's 4th and 5 from their own 30 with 4 minutes left. Hot take. The way this game was going, they could have gone for this, and I wouldn't be that mad. Either you can potentially give yourself a chance to end the game, or you only have 30 yards to chew up the clock, and you will still get the ball back even if they score. Hindsight is 20/20, but that take sounds great after watching what happens. The Jags get the ball back and march down the field like they have the whole second half, crossing the 50 with 2 minutes to go. The Chargers do hold them to 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1 with a minute left, but a great play call by Doug Peterson gets Travis Etienne in space for a 25-yard gain. They run the clock, kick the field goal, and finish one of the greatest comebacks of all time, and eventually leading to Brandon Staley's firing the following season. Unbelievable. In the second half, the Jags outpossessed the Chargers 16 minutes to 14 minutes, and they couldn't be stopped. 3 straight touchdown drives and a 10-play, 61-yard, 3-minute field goal drive to win the game. They made the Chargers defense look like Swiss cheese. The Jags had 117 rushing yards and 5.6 yards per carry. The Chargers, 67 rushing yards and 2.9 yards per carry. The Chargers couldn't run the ball, and their passing game was largely figured out in the second half. This game was entirely on Herbert to win the whole time. A few sacks and batted passes and negative run plays was all it took to end a few drives. If it weren't for those 5 turnovers, he wouldn't have stood a chance. Fun fact, I actually live bet this game right before Ingram scored. It's so long ago to show proof from DraftKings, but trust, I was watching that Jags run game and that drive, and I thought it was possible. But as we know, Herbert has 2 more embarrassing playoff losses that look a lot different than that. So let's dig into them. January 11th, 2025 with the Texans game. Absolutely disgusting game offensively. The Chargers had way less penalties, 2 to the Texans 8. And they also had a slightly better third down percentage than the Texans, but that's all that really went right for them in this one. The Chargers offense only mustered 50 rushing yards on 28 carries. Herbert threw for 242 yards and a touchdown, but 4 interceptions after only throwing 3 the entire regular season. He had a 44% completion percentage at 14 of 32, just awful. We know the Texans defense has been top 2 the past 2 seasons, but that's just an awful stat line. Safe to say from those stats alone, the Chargers were behind the sticks the whole game, and Herbert was left to throw into the teeth of the Texans' ferocious pass defense. Conversely, Stroud wasn't that great either, but he had a great run game to lean on with Joe Mixon and used his legs well in this one too, with 42 yards on the ground. But let's go through the game and see what actually happened in the big moments. The Chargers start off with a 10-play, 57-yard drive that led to a field goal. There was a good mix of run and pass until Dobbins was stopped on 3rd and 1. A fine start to a defensive showdown. Then, lucky them, John Mechie fumbles on the first play of offense for the Texans. Starting at the Texans 33, they run for a first down and run play act from the 22, and D'Amico Ryan's defense was ready for that as 2 defenders are immediately in Herbert's face once he turns around, and he's sacked for -9. They eventually kick a field goal, making it 6-0 Chargers. They had 4 rushes for 29 yards to this point, and they were putting points on the board, but they would only get another 21 yards on 14 carries for the rest of the game. The teams would trade punts over the next 4 drives. As for Herbert on his 2 drives, the run game was struggling, and as sticky as the Texans' coverage was, he did miss an open Quentin Johnston for what could have been a big play on 2nd and 9. And then the next play on 3rd and 9, the Texans blitz, he's hit as he throws, and the ball actually makes it to McConkey, who drops it. He was well covered. Next drive started from the Chargers' own 8. Herbert hits McConkey for 12 on first down. Next play hits Ladd over the middle again for 15. They're looking good so far. And then on 2nd and 4, after a Dobbins 6-yard run, they run a play-action screen to Will Anderson's side, and he is not fooled. He immediately gets in Herbert's face, who throws it incomplete. 3rd and 4, Herbert drops back. The Texans send 5. He is pressured and throws it incomplete to Quentin Johnston, and they punt. Fortunately, on 3rd and 7, Stroud throws an interception, and the Chargers get the ball at the Texans' 40 with a chance to make it 9-0. They run play action. They roll Herbert out to the right. He's under pressure and throws a deep downfield across his body, and the pass is intercepted by Kamari Lassiter. There is no excuse for this. Bad decision. In theory, he can make that throw, but QJ was double covered. It's not a great play call in my opinion, but he should have just taken the sack or thrown it at 12's feet right here to live to see another down. The Texans were crumbling offensively, and you kept them in the game with this mistake. The teams, again, trade punts. Herbert had a nice pass to McConkey for 19, but they just couldn't run the ball. And on 2nd and 8, play action, Herbert, not under significant pressure, has McConkey on an outbreaker, and he's late to the throw and misses him inside. 3rd and 8, Texans send 5. Herbert is swarmed, and the pass is incomplete. They punt, still up 6-0, and pin the Texans inside their own 1-yard line with less than 7 minutes left in the half. And this is the drive that changes everything. On a 3rd and 16, from their own 17, the snap goes over Stroud's head. He scoops it up, rolls out right, and hits Xavier Hutchinson, who is wide open in the deep middle of the field for a 34-yard gain. The Chargers defense is not to blame for this loss, but you can see the defender who allowed this getting spun around and lost in coverage during the scramble drill. Eventually, the drive ends in a Stroud 13-yard touchdown pass to Nico Collins, and now it's 7-6 Texans. The next drive is a 3-and-out for the Chargers. Texans' defensive coverage was tight, but it's noteworthy. He did, on second down, miss a wide-open McConkey for what could have been a touchdown. He was pressured this drive, but nothing crazy. Opening drive of the second half, Texans get to midfield, and Joe Mixon fumbles, and it's recovered by the Chargers. Herbert starts off by hitting McConkey for 17 to get across the 50. Then on 3rd and 2, Edwards is stuffed, and they elect to go for it. 4th and 2 from the Texans' 34. Play action whip route to Quentin Johnson. The pass is completed, but short of the first down. I think this call is very bad. It's a defensive game. You can cut the deficit to 9-10 and keep things going. Even if you convert, the chances of driving another 30 yards for a touchdown are low. So bad call by Harbaugh. The Texans capitalize on field position and muster a field goal next drive, making the score 13-6 Houston. Next drive, another mess. Dobbins is stuffed, Texans defense clamps, and on 3rd down, the Texans rush 5 and Herbert is sacked instantly. They punt. The Chargers force a 3-and-out, and on the last play before the 4th quarter, the floodgates open. On 1st down, still 13-6 Texans, Herbert overthrows a hitch to McConkey, and the pass is intercepted and returned for a touchdown. And it's now 20-6 Texans. The following drive, Herbert hits McConkey twice for big gains, getting them to the Texans' 40, but on the following play, the pass goes through the hands of Will Dissly and is intercepted by Derek Stingley and returned inside the Chargers' 15-yard line. As bad as Herbert's 2 interceptions were before this, anytime they got downfield, it was pretty much due to his passing. They could have gotten back into this game and made it 20-13, but this just pretty much seals it right here. A Texans field goal makes it 23-6. Hilariously, Herbert does hit McConkey on the following drive for an 86-yard catch-and-run touchdown up the seam, which makes it 23-12, but it's just not enough, is it? The extra point is blocked and returned for a 2-point play for the Texans. Now it's 25-12. Just why not, right? The Texans drive down the field with 10 minutes and 38 seconds left in the 4th, chewing 7 minutes of clock and capping off the drive with a Joe Mixon touchdown run. Less than 4 minutes remain. Herbert gets the ball back down 20. He throws a one-on-one ball to Chark, and it's intercepted by Stingley. Just whatever. Game ends 32-12 Houston. Overall, the Chargers couldn't run the ball as effectively versus the Texans, and yes, they struggled to possess the ball because of it, but this was a bad game by Justin Herbert. He made some plays and moved the ball, but he did miss some open receivers and threw 2 interceptions that were absolutely unnecessary and his fault. And that made the Texans' run game advantage an even bigger problem, cutting drives short, giving them field position on some, or even a pick 6. Even if he was under some pressure, he did also not do a great job of using his legs at all. The Texans didn't need to rush more than 4 or 5 and did spy him to a degree, but this is better than throwing a 40-yard pass across your body and it resulting in an interception. And finally, January 11th, 2026, only a few months ago, the Patriots game. Very similar team stats for both teams, struggling offensively, not too many penalties. The Patriots did have the edge on 3rd down, 4 of 11 to 1 to 10. Yikes. Also, 1 for 1 on 4th down to the Chargers 1 for 3. No team scored within the red zone. The Patriots had the ball for 5.5 more minutes, and you guessed it, the Patriots outrushed the Chargers in this one 146 to 87. Interestingly, both QBs were the team's leading rushers, Herbert 10 for 57 and May 10 for 65. So Herbert did use his legs in this one, which is great, but it wasn't enough. The Pats got an additional 80 yards on 19 carries between Stevenson and Henderson. The Chargers only get an additional 30 yards on 12 carries from mostly Vidal and 1 carry from Hampton, who got pulled out due to injury. It's insane how frequently in these quarterback video essays I do that they're outrushed and the team that defeats them also outpressures them. This game is a drag, but let's cover the chances Herbert had. The Chargers had 2 drives in the first quarter and only 10 plays for 36 yards. Herbert starts well with a 14-yard pass followed up by a 9-yard scramble. In the next series, the Chargers backup tackle false starts, setting them back to 1st and 15. A 3-yard screen followed up by a great blitz that forces an incompletion, leads to 3rd and 12. And Herbert's 10-yard completion to Oronde Gadsden is not enough for the first, and they punt. They get the ball back at the Patriots' 10-yard line after Drake May had a tipped interception. 1st down, Herbert is pressured and scrambles for 6. 2nd and goal from the 6. Read option, Herbert keeps and gets 3 more yards. 3rd and goal from the 3. No one's open. and he again scrambles for 1 yard. And 4th and goal from the 2-yard line, they elect to go for it. I do like this risk. The Patriots send the house. He rolls out right, and he overthrows Keenan Allen, who has a step in the end zone. The Patriots started at the 2-yard line, but a 48-yard catch and run by Stevenson gets them to midfield, and then the drive ends in a field goal in the second quarter. The Chargers did respond with a nice drive, some run mixed with the pass that is cut short by a stuffed run on 3rd and 2, but they do tie it up with a field goal and make it 3-3. From this point onward, the Chargers would proceed to only earn 4 first downs and failed to cross midfield until their final drive of the game. They did not score after this drive. Herbert was under serious pressure beyond this point. Under a minute left in the half, 2nd and 3 from their own 35, he's instantly pressured and sacked, and then the next play is clamped up by the secondary and the pocket collapses. The Patriots eke out another field goal before the end of half, and that makes it 6-3 Patriots. Now, opening the second half, it's 2nd down. He's under slight pressure, and he checks it down when Ladd is open on an outbreaker, and on 3rd and 7, he scrambles and underthrows Ladd, who has a step for a 20-yard gain and then some. The Patriots get a drive going, but Drake May is strip sacked, and the Chargers recover at their own 23. On the first play, Herbert buys time going right. QJ gets a step on Gonzalez in the scramble drill, and Herbert underthrows him. The next play, he chucks it deep to a covered QJ. It's incomplete, but they get a flag. And after the penalty, they approach midfield, and on 3rd and 4, Herbert evades a sack, and Vidal gets a step on the defender, and Herbert overthrows him too. Once is forgivable, but this is multiple missed opportunities we're talking about here. They punt, and the Patriots chew up clock and get another field goal, making it 9-3 Patriots entering the 4th quarter. First play of the next drive, Herbert's instantly pressured, and he's strip sacked, but thankfully the Chargers recover. He scrambles for a first down, but after 2 incompletions where nothing was open, Keenan Allen drops a pass, and they punt again from their own 46. But the Patriots chew nearly 5 minutes of clock on an 80-yard touchdown drive and make it 16-3 with less than 10 minutes left. Things are just looking grim. Things don't get any better the next drive as the tackle Salyer false starts again. Herbert scrambles for a first and then another one, but on the next series on 2nd down, Herbert's instantly rushed, but he just stands there getting bumped around in the pocket, and he gets strip sacked. This time the Patriots recover. And this is something I feel guys like Joe Burrow and Tom Brady were exceptional at, that Herbert doesn't do here. He's just looking downfield, but the rush is in his face, and there's space to shuffle to the left. That's where shuffling in the pocket and resetting your feet is crucial as a quarterback, and it's an elite skill that's hard to learn. And if he did that, he would have seen that Vidal and Gadsden were open for dump-offs, and Keenan Allen was sitting wide open deeper down the field. I do understand that he was under pressure all game, but that's going to happen time to time, and in this game there were multiple examples of him missing opportunities that were there for big plays or just to continue drives like it was here. The Patriots chew a little clock, they punt, and the game is pretty much over. The Chargers have a 14-play drive that ends in a turnover on downs. I think Herbert did a good job scrambling and running in this one, but again, I think he could have done a better job choosing to shuffle in the pocket instead of take off. And he missed some big throws on the run, which we would expect an elite quarterback to make. I wouldn't say Greg Roman being figured out by Vrabel and Zach Kerr was as big of an issue in this one as them being figured out in the Texans game was. So in summary, when it comes to Herbert's role in the Chargers' playoff losses, the Jags game, I don't pin much blame on him. He put points on the board, they couldn't run the ball, the offense was stalled by a few fluky plays, and in the second half, their defense was carved up all game. Along with a missed field goal and bad coaching, it's not on him. But the Texans game, the Chargers couldn't run the ball. He was under some serious pressure, 42.8% of his dropbacks, but he did miss some reads. He didn't use his legs well against the rush, and the 2 interceptions he threw, the one to QJ and the pick 6, were total misfires that gave away any chance the Chargers defense was giving him to win that game. The Patriots game, this one to me is the worst. Yes, 38% pressure rate is still a lot. They didn't run the ball effectively, but there were still a lot of opportunities to stay in this game. Missed throws and idle in the pocket when he's under pressure. It seems he wasn't lying when he said he was haunted by that 2024 game versus the Texans and perhaps the Jags game too. It's pretty jarring to see these types of playoff performances after all the accomplishments we talked about in the pros and cons. There is legitimate merit to the idea that his decision making takes a serious step back in the playoffs. On that note, let's segue into the other piece of the puzzle and let's focus on what the Chargers' role as a team and organization is in these losses, the external factors. The Chargers' failures and injuries. What I'm showing you is a table consisting of team stats, highlighting the underlying problem I have with the Chargers team structure and why it sets up a quarterback to fail in the playoffs. It highlights a team's defense, the total yards allowed, points allowed, total rushing yards allowed, and specifically the yards per carry allowed, as well as the offense's total rushing yards and yards per carry. In the 3 playoff games, the Chargers allowed 117 yards and 5.6 yards per carry to the Jags, 168 yards and 4.9 yards per carry to the Texans, and 140 yards and 5 yards per carry to the Patriots. They were outrushed in each of those games by 50, 118, and 59 yards in those games. They won time of possession overall versus the Jags, but as we discussed in the second half, when the Jags weren't turning it over 5 times, the Jags outpossessed the Chargers 16 minutes and 2 seconds to 13 minutes and 58 seconds, and clearly outpaced them with their run game advantage. It's a tale as old as time. Versus the Texans, they lost time of possession by 8 minutes and 5 seconds, and versus the Patriots by 4 minutes and 30 seconds. This conversation sounds very similar to one we had last year about an old rival I have on the Cowboys, and it's the same problem. Dak's actually won a playoff game. The body of work in the playoffs isn't as bad, that's clear, but they both meet their ends in the same way. In fact, the Chargers' loss to the Jags is the magnum opus of this concept that running the ball and stopping the run is the biggest key to playoff victories. That's the advantage the Jags actually had the whole game. Along with a few plays going their way, they become the only team to ever win a playoff game, losing the turnover battle by 5, and had the 3rd largest comeback in playoff history. Of course, you can't forget time of possession, which they won in the second half, and turnovers, which they tied in the second half, having none. Those are really the 4 variables that matter. Time of possession, running the ball, stopping the run, and turnovers. You might be screaming, what about pressure? That matters 100%, but that's another reason the run game matters, because you can back that off with a run game. You can turn 3rd and 7 into 3rd and 3 and make it much easier on the quarterback. It all starts with the running game. So when 3 of those don't go the Chargers' way, even if Herbert played well, it's fair to ask if that really would have changed the outcome of those games. In the 2025 NFL playoffs, teams who outrushed their opponent by at least 20 yards, won time of possession, and won the turnover battle were 6-1. And the loss was the Eagles, who turned the ball over twice on 4th down, so technically the turnovers were tied, and they were outpassed by 119 yards. When teams win only 2 of those categories, that's when other variables play a big role in determining the outcome, like penalties, 4th down conversion rate, red zone success, and pressure. Those are usually the deciding factors. The Chargers winning overall time of possession versus the Jags and the turnover battle and still losing was decided by the Jags having 4 less penalties, converting 2 critical 4th downs, and outrushing them. But to summarize that, the Chargers clearly aren't yet built for the playoffs, or at least healthy enough when they get there to be built to win. 32nd in yards per carry allowed and 30th in yards per carry in 2022, 27th and 23rd in 2024, and 19th and 15th in 2025. When you get to the playoffs, you either can't run the ball, you can't stop it, or both. Next is injuries. I don't want this to drag, so let me just show you the charts. In 2022, they were missing Rashawn Slater, their star tackle, to a torn biceps tendon, and Herbert still operated pretty well. In 2024, they had 18 different offensive line combinations during the regular season due to injury, 0 cohesiveness. And then in 2025, they lost Rashawn Slater to a torn Achilles before the season even started, and Joe Alt had ankle surgery week 10, so the young stud tackle duo was gone for the season, and they had the worst ranked offensive line heading into the playoffs. Not to mention the lack of star talent in the front 7 and lack of depth that they have there. So any injuries that they have in that group makes the stopping the run weakness even worse. So clearly this is another factor feeding into the failures in the trenches and the failures to protect Justin Herbert in these games, especially the past 2 seasons. Finally, coaching failures. Now, this is the last and most ambiguous reason. In the playoffs, Herbert has had Brandon Staley in 2022 versus the Jags. His Swiss cheese defense and management of that game was just dreadful. In 2024 and 2025, they have Jim Harbaugh, CEO-style coach. We know that they are largely dependent on coordinators. Jesse Minter has been an awesome defensive coordinator. It's too bad he's gone. But Greg Roman has clearly been a step back from the Kellen Moore days and is just uninspiring. So though I wouldn't say he's been the main reason that they've lost, we've seen his offenses crumble in the playoffs before, so this is just nothing new. So establishing Herbert's career and taking a deep dive into his playoff woes, I think it's a good time to put things into perspective and compare him to the rest of the league and give my rank for him. So this is always controversial, but here's how I go about this. I consider 3 categories: overall quarterback IQ, decision making, execution, etc. Next is raw talent and ability, and then finally is relative playoff performance. This one is key and the most subjective. Take, for example, I respect Jalen Hurts and what he's accomplished, but to me, I'm more impressed by a quarterback that makes the Super Bowl and plays well in a loss against a superior team, aka Joe Burrow, than a guy who wins a Super Bowl on one of the best teams we've seen in 10 years. So he's not in my top 10, especially considering what he looks like when the Eagles aren't the best team in the NFL. So that concept largely drives the placement of these rankings. So there's the obvious top 5, and then the discussion begins. This is one of the hardest but most interesting years to rank quarterbacks because of all the guys in this tier and even in the mid-20s. Now, at number 6, I have Dak ahead of Herbert, and here's why. Dak is 2-5 in the playoffs, not great, but he's 2-2 in games where Cowboys rush for 100 yards or more. And the 2 games that he lost in that sample, the Cowboys defense allowed 34 and 48 points, and he played pretty well on offense. We haven't seen the Chargers rush for 100 yards yet, but there's no saying that Herbert would get it done even if they did. Talent-wise, the edge clearly goes to Herbert. He's got the stronger arm, he can run better, and he's more durable. But processing and IQ, I'm going with Dak. People forget that this is year 10 for him. He's a seasoned vet. Every full season he's had since 2019, he's thrown for 4,500 yards and 30-plus touchdowns. He's a surgical passer that runs the offense, and I think his pocket feel is more developed as well. Now at number 7 is where I have Justin Herbert, and he lies ahead of Caleb Williams at number 8, Jaden Daniels at number 9, Drake May at 10, Sam Darnold at 11, and Trevor Lawrence at 12. Pretty much all these guys are on par with Herbert when it comes to talent one way or another. Production and processing, the 3 guys from the 2024 class are still young, and they aren't matching what Herbert has done in his first 2 seasons. Trevor Lawrence has only had 2 productive seasons that don't match Herbert's 2 best or even his first 2 seasons. And Darnold, he's a little bit closer with the production, but still not quite the body of work from a production standpoint. You can make the argument that they all have better playoff resumes for sure, but 1 season really isn't enough for me to make that a determining factor, or 3 games in 2 different seasons. There's also a caveat with each of these guys too. Caleb is still streaky, Jaden Daniels is injury prone, and the Lions defense that he defeated was decimated with injuries. Drake May had an extremely Mickey Mouse season and got exposed as soon as his team didn't dominate in the ground game. And Darnold, yes, he won a Super Bowl on the best team. A year ago, we were talking about him choking on the Vikings. So Trevor Lawrence is interesting, but I want to see more. He did throw 4 interceptions, though, in that game versus the Chargers, and without the run game advantage he had, that's a forever wart on his resume. So we've established that Herbert can be elite in the regular season, but takes a step back in the playoffs, but also the Chargers have yet to surround Herbert with a team capable of supporting a playoff win. Plenty of blame to go around, but still there's some questions. With all of this, what do we expect from Herbert moving forward in 2026 and beyond? What if they actually have an offensive line and a running game and a defense that can prevent being ran all over? Well, this is where I get excited. The team made a lot of moves to improve the defensive front, signing run-stuffing veteran defensive tackle Dalvin Tomlinson, extending Khalil Mack, and drafting Miami pass rusher Akeem Mazudor with their first-round pick. Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt returning as one of the best tackle duos in the NFL can change everything when it comes to protection and run blocking. They brought back Trey Pipkins as tackle depth and signed former Saints first-round pick Trevor Penning as tackle depth, whose real issue has been health, but as a swing depth piece, he provides a lot of upside. They also signed center Tyler Biadasz and guard Cole Strange to be starters. Also, they drafted 4 offensive linemen and just signed a couple others. It's clear they were on a mission this offseason to fix this issue once and for all. Additionally, talented first-round running back Omarion Hampton is back and healthy after a rookie season that was tainted by a high ankle sprain. All of that added to the trenches, and they hired Mike McDaniel as the new offensive coordinator. Things didn't work out in Miami as the head coach, but he proved to be one of the most creative offensive minds in the NFL. Now with more time to focus on offense as just the offensive coordinator, he specialized in creating a run game for Tua in Miami, and that was with a lot less to work with than he has here. With what we've seen Herbert do so far, I don't know how you couldn't be excited about what this Chargers offense could be in 2026. Again, it does depend on health, but as long as the offensive line stays generally healthy, I think we should see our first playoff win from the Chargers this season. With McDaniel and Herbert leading the offense, they're deep with weapons. All they need is a system and that offensive line, and they could be an elite unit come playoff time. Depending on how far he goes and how the rest of the quarterbacks in the NFL in this tier fare in 2026, I could even see Herbert surpassing Dak in my list and being next in line for that 5 spot when Stafford eventually retires. I truly cannot wait for this season. So, Justin Herbert, 6'6" superstar quarterback, rocket arm, $250 million contract, dating a celebrity pop star. He's got everything he needs in life except a playoff win. Poor guy. What's stopping him? A team that was never built for playoff contention and the mental scars of his failure each time that he got there. Some have already written him off for good, while others haven't got off their soapbox since 2020. It seems, as always, the answer lies somewhere in between. He certainly had his shortcomings, but it's not all his fault. We can acknowledge his mistakes and the fact that the Chargers haven't been a Super Bowl roster come playoff time, let alone a true playoff contending roster. Now Herbert enters another season, coming off a tragic playoff loss. But chances are, he's going to get back in the mix. And based on what we've seen so far, there's no reason to believe Herbert can't win a playoff game and even go on a Super Bowl run if the pieces fall into place. With the offensive line overhauled and healthy, and Mike McDaniel calling this offense, it could be this year. Whether he gets a chance at redemption versus the Jaguars, Texans, or Patriots, or he makes it all the way to the AFC Championship game against one of the 4 elite AFC quarterbacks or the Broncos, the pressure is going to be on for Herbert. But I think this might finally be the year that Herbert proves all the haters wrong and shows that he's had it in him the whole time.
He gets a block from Deculus, downfield, caught 5, touchdown, on pass. And the Chargers are back in business.
There's just nowhere to throw that ball.
And look at what he's looking at right here. Just a one-on-one matchup in the corner of the end zone.
They're going to make a poster out of this throw. You got to throw all the way across the field, both feet off the ground. Beautiful stroke out there. He is just feeling it.
What a toss! Herbert with a defender on his back drives it 54 yards.
Justin Herbert going deep. He's looking for Palmer. He's got the ball, and that's the ball game.
This is all Justin Herbert. Well, he gets hit by Zach Allen. I think he was thinking about throwing this ball away at the last minute. He locates his open receiver.
Herbert stops, launches deep. Jalen Guyton, he's got it. Touchdown Chargers. What a throw!
Herbert to the air. Pipkins the block at the right tackle. Got away from Allen. Herbert alive, and the throw